We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. It is the 1st of July. Hallelujah, we've made it here. Is that great? The war was supposed to end in June. The big global coastal event. And somehow I think we averted it through the participation and alignment of our consciousness by being aware of all of its ramifications and manifestations. Yes, you did your part to delay disaster by simply paying attention and being awake, and that's what it's all about. And today, how can we be more awake than what's going on in Egypt? I mean, this thing is off the hook. If you have not been paying attention, there is serious history in the making. Serious history. But before I get into Egypt and talk about that and what's going on over there, I just want to take some time out to recognize the 19 firefighters in Arizona, an elite group of firefighters who have been working and training together for years, and they all lost their lives in a place called Yarnell Hill in Arizona, where they're having terrible fires. Again, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. It now seems like an annual event. The heat, the arson, the inability to contain these just out of control blazes. Anyway, 19 men gave their lives today to try to save homes and land, and they all died at once. There were 20 of them, and apparently only one of these guys remains. I don't know their names. I don't know their personal lives, but this is a big time tragedy, and hearts and prayers go out to the family and the friends of these very brave men. So I just wanted to bring that up at the beginning of the show, and maybe at the end of the show we'll have a couple moments of silence for them. So there we go. All right, let's talk about another hot situation. It's Egypt, and things are going off in a very, very big way there. Now let's go back in time. It wasn't that long ago that the Egyptians were going through their own color revolution, so to speak. Now, the color revolutions are interesting, and I've talked about this before. You can trace them essentially to a group called Optor, and Optor was one of the first groups that successfully managed to stage a coup in the wake of the balkanization of the former Soviet Union. They're from Serbia, and what they did is they created a template and a model for the modern coup in the 20th and 21st centuries. And they were co-opted by George Soros, and Soros brought them in and essentially got them to train other people how to do this. And if you look at the color revolutions like say in Yemen and even Egypt to a lesser extent, but Egypt was involved. People from those countries were brought over to Washington, D.C. and essentially trained by Optor, given cell phones, and shown how to push social media in order for a revolution to take place. Now, I do believe that that was the case during the last Egyptian revolution, although it was very hard not to have a revolution because the price of grain went up. And the one thing that keeps people sort of at bay is the ability to have food in their stomachs. And grain, wheat, is a huge staple in Egypt. And the rise in the cost of grain made it very difficult for restaurant owners to keep food prices down, keep certain items on the menu, and just to have people with a semi-full belly. That was part of the reason why there was a revolution in Egypt 2 years ago. The other reason was because Mubarak had a pretty brutal secret police force, and if you had any kind of gripe with the government, you'd be shut down and shut down hard. So it was time for Mubarak to go. Apparently the leaders of the West and NATO and the G8, had said, okay, thanks for helping us. Thanks for taking over when, sorry about that. I hate that when that happens. Okay, here we go. Thanks for taking over when Nasser was assassinated and being the go-to guy, the crutch, and the clutch player between the U.S. and Israel and Egypt. And he was rewarded. Mubarak was nicely rewarded for all of his time of service. Made a lot of money, kept his position for a very long time. But they had deemed it was time for him to go. A change was coming, and that change happened to be the Muslim Brotherhood. That's who got inserted after the revolution, the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood has long been associated with MI5 and MI6, and a group that has deep ties to Saudi intelligence. So the Muslim Brotherhood is more or less an agency than an actual Muslim, what do you call it, interfaith, a Muslim faith-based organization. There's a huge intelligence component that's built into the Muslim Brotherhood. So what we had is we had a government that was inserted that was going to try to enact Sharia law. And this is now, it's actually taking place over in Turkey as well. But the thing with Turkey, though, is interesting because what Erdogan wants to do is he wants to create a sort of corporatized Islam. He wants to eliminate any kind of like local business or local trade. I wouldn't say any kind. He's very much in favor of corporate partnerships. Erdogan is. And as a result of that, what happens is that you lose the flavor and the ethnic aura of one's own country or one's own contributions. It also takes the money out of the small and middle business class and puts it in the hands of the corporations who then employ the people. This is all part of Pluto and Capricorn and the rise of the corporatocracy. But what Erdogan wants to do is he wants that corporate piece, but he also wants to begin to implement aspects of Sharia law, which are very extreme. They're extremely extreme in a lot of ways, and very, very conservative. It's kind of like the Islamic Crescent version of dispensationalist Christianity. It's got very hardcore tenets, and the Muslim Brotherhood has been trying to insert that into the rule of law in Egypt. And I was turned on to what was going to happen this weekend by Pam Ella, who listens to the show quite a bit, and she gave me the heads up last week that this was all going to go down, and she sent me links and or video. I was like, okay, well, let's see where this is going. And sure enough, it happened just like she had illustrated with the video she sent me. And the video was basically all these kids. I mean, these revolutions are being driven by kids now. We're in a very interesting time. This is the millennials. They are on fire, and they want justice, man. These kids want social justice. Now, I may not always agree with some of their principles, but I will say this, that they've got balls. And not only do they have balls, but they are smart, and they know how to organize, and they know how to use social media. They're fearless. I mean, these Pluto and Scorpio kids are absolutely fearless. And I've seen some pictures of Cairo recently, and they're pretty depressing. Now, some people say, well, that's the way Cairo's always been. But some of the pictures that I've seen were one of the biggest industries in Cairo now has been the creation of weapons. Like, people actually make guns in Cairo. Sometimes they're not even real guns. Sometimes they're fake guns. But these sort of street stand gunsmiths have become quite popular. And what's happened is that the police force there, which is left over from the Mubarak regime, their guns are not getting updated. They still have these old guns, and if they break or something happens to them, it's very hard for them to get new guns. However, the Muslim Brotherhood is bringing in its own members of the police force and outfitting them with the newest killing apparatuses that they can find them. So it's interesting to see how even the Muslim Brotherhood is phasing out the old Egyptian guard. These are the people that at one point in time either protected or terrorized the population, depending upon what Mubarak was trying to do at any given point in time. It's a major sea change here, extreme, absolutely extreme. So let me read this to you. This is where we are right now. This is from about an hour ago, the Business Insider, which is a pretty good online publication, by the way. Says here, the chief of Egyptian military has given President Morsi 48 hours to meet the demands of the people, according to a statement posted on their Facebook page. Let me read that again. This is one of the most interesting paragraphs you're going to read all week, okay? The chief of Egyptian military. So this is the guy that runs the army in Egypt. He controls the ammo and the bodies. That's what this guy does. He's the chief, man. And he says that Morsi's got 48 hours to meet the demands of the people, according to a statement posted on their Facebook page. Even that last piece, according to a statement posted on their Facebook page. I mean, Facebook has now become this sort of court, this open-air court where governments are tried and then demands are made of them right there for the public. Very interesting stuff. Military Chief Abdul Fattah al-Sisi said that the army will then intervene to seek a political transition, though it will not itself be a political entity at that point. That's actually a really strong statement. They'll facilitate the change, but they want no role in running the country. You got to tip your hat to that. That's pretty tremendous. It remains to be seen, but they don't want to be involved in the business of governing. The demands of the people seem to largely revolve around resisting Morsi's intentions to install a more religious government, basing law around Islamic Sharia. As if to characterize how the people feel, protesters trash the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood, the largest, most influential political party, which generally pushes for laws that are Islamic in nature. Al Jazeera reported yesterday that military tanks and vehicles started appearing in the square, apparently in preparation for this development from al-Sisi. Can you believe that? The military is on the side of the people. This is unprecedented, really unprecedented. It's usually the people going up against the military, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. In the case of China, it didn't work too well. But here, obviously, there's some traction. We're watching something, we're witnessing something that is unprecedented right now. Al Jazeera reported yesterday that the crowd in Tahrir Square is reportedly jubilant at the development, which hints at a coup. Well-known Egyptian blogger, The Big Pharaoh, laid out bluntly in a tweet, "We are the first country in human history to have a countdown to a military coup." Citizens expected this move from the military general who just a week ago said he would not allow Egypt to descend into a dark tunnel of conflict. This al-Sisi guy is pretty interesting. The statement from the Egyptian military is largely cut and dry. Morsi and the other political parties need to get along and represent the will of the people, or else they're all out. From a translated version of the statement, the armed forces will not be a party in politics or government. The department does not satisfy that out of its decree her role in the authentic democratic thought emanating from the will of the people. It's a little convoluted. They're basically saying, look, we're not going to get involved, but we will stand up for the will of the people. Here's the entire statement, but keep in mind it's been translated through Google Translate. I don't want to read that. It's crunchy. It's hard to read. But trust me, it is happening. It is on. Now, apparently what's also going on is that there are people stepping down now. There are people stepping down from the Egyptian government. There are members like the council. They're walking away. They're getting out. And this does not bode well at all for Morsi. His inside people are fleeing the ship like rats. And it speaks in a lot of ways to the will of the majority when it feels as though the majority is in the right. This was not a government that they wanted. The elections in Egypt were probably pretty skewed. I don't know who they want. I don't know what their options are. But what I do know is that they don't want the Muslim Brotherhood as being part of what they're doing. And that in and of itself, I think, is very important, extremely important. You know, over the weekend, I read about this company that is based out of San Francisco. And I don't have the name of it, but I'll try to find it. In fact, I want to get these guys on the show because I think what they're doing is really, really interesting. So here's the basis of the company. These three 19-year-old kids, 19 years old. Okay, what were you doing when you were 19? When I was 19, I was nowhere near ready to have my own company. Trust me on that. These three 19-year-old kids got a parking lot near the San Francisco airport. It's a town called South San Francisco. It's really nothing but parking lots. That's it, parking lots and a few old Italian restaurants. So South San Francisco, they've got this parking lot, they bought it. And what they decided to do is they decided to turn the car rental business on its ear. So they decided that cars being parked were kind of useless. Well, why not take those cars and then rent them out and have them be used by other people looking to use cars while people are away? And so what they've done is they've created a solution for people parking their cars, right? Then they can actually rent them out to other people. And there are people that there's this one guy that's done this like 6 times already. And every time he gets an oil service, he gets his car washed, somebody gets to drive his car around, and by the way, he makes $60. So instead of paying 120, 130, 140, he's actually making money, and he's getting a service on his car. Now his car is insured for up to $1 million, so everything is very kosher in terms of making sure nobody gets hurt or damaged. They got all their insurance taken care of, and so people coming in, what's their incentive? What's their motivation? Well, their incentive and their motivation is that they pay less for a car. Instead of paying $50 a day, they're paying maybe $30 a day for a car, maybe less. So now they're making money from the people that are renting the cars. The cars aren't rented, then they're making money off the cars being parked there. So they're not quite profitable yet, but I think they're getting close. But what they're doing more than anything is they're shaking up the way business is done. They're challenging our assumptions about how things are done, because immediately, all the big car rental businesses got really involved and, saw this as a threat, and they talked to the city and the county, and the city and the county are going after them, saying they don't have the permits, they don't have the this, they don't have the that, the blah, the blah, the blah, the blah, the blah. And the kids who are running this thing, they basically said, we're not worried about that. We're just going to do our business. We're going to do our business, and we'll sort this out in court, because they're going to court. In the meantime, they're continuing to do their business. In fact, they've even started another one of these in Logan Airport in Boston. And it's in some ways like Lyft. I don't know if you guys know what Lyft is, but Lyft is a service where you can actually, it's an app. You have the app on your phone, and if you want to get a ride from one place to another place, you hit Lyft, and if somebody is nearby, they will pick you up and take you someplace for an agreed upon fee. So that way people can use their cars to actually take people from one place to another. Now in San Francisco, where Lyft, by the way, was developed, they got a lot of flack from the taxi industry, and then the city got involved, and the city said you have to have all these licenses and permits, and what happened is that Lyft fought them on a legal basis. And I think that the city of San Francisco and the county of San Francisco realized that they probably could lose. So what they did is they had an agreed upon sort of middle ground and a compromise. And the compromise was that their drivers, the Lyft drivers, would have to go through a background check. It's not the best thing, right? I mean, let's just say you want to, use your car. Well, now you're submitting all of your information to the city of San Francisco. You get a background check. So now you're on a database. So maybe that's worth more to the city of San Francisco than some license. Who knows? Maybe that's what they've determined. However, Lyft is still in business, and people are still doing their lifting of people all around the country. And this is another example of that. So we're in a very revolutionary time. We cannot deny this. Now, it looks differently to different people. In my latest blog post, if you haven't been to my website, robertphoenix.com, I just did a satire. It had nothing to do with astrology, but I felt like doing a satire. And it was after a week of butting heads with Damian Crisp on Facebook, who is an occupier, and trying to understand, what it is that he's feeling revolutionary about. And one of the things that came through is that he hated the United States, which I don't really hate the United States. I'm just not in agreement with a lot of the direction of where the country is going, but I don't hate it. He has a hate for it. And so even though we may all kind of agree that we're in revolutionary times, it doesn't always look or feel the same to each and every one of us. We're able to kind of see it through our own lens and our own filter, and then kind of move it or push it in the direction that we feel ideologically related to or connected with. But we can't deny it. These are revolutionary times. And it's happening from a business standpoint with these little companies and these kids basically saying, hey, we're going to do something different. We're going to flip the script. We're going to use people. We're going to use social media. And these are the new assets. This is the new value. Why? Because we don't make anything anymore. There's no manufacturing here. So we have to figure out what we do have. What we have is we have human capital, and we have communications up the wazoo. That's what we have, in a very unique and sophisticated way. So if we look at that and we look at the global revolutionary state of affairs as well, it's clear that this is happening across the board. This is a full spectrum kind of revolutionary time we're living in, and it's Uranus and Aries. Now, some people would say that this would also include same-sex rights and all that other stuff, and I'm probably not the best person to talk to about that, but I would say that probably there is some truth to that, because everything is getting turned upside down, and I mean everything. So rejoice. You live in a time of change, great change, and some of it can be pretty intense and oppressive looking, and at other times it looks like we are breaking free from the shackles of how things are done, of the orthodox point of view. And in the case of business, that may not be such a bad thing at all. I think we're about due for some major changes on that front as well. Who knows where it'll go? I mean, maybe you'll have people like serving food out of their cars. And that could be a very interesting thing. Home kitchens with home delivery via car. I know in San Francisco they have these roving sort of kitchen parties or house parties, and essentially what happens is that these people will go to a house and they'll set up in a kitchen for a night and they'll make food for everyone. You pay X amount of money. I went to one of these back in the early 2000s, in San Francisco. And it's another way for people to be able to kind of take back or take control of their resources and do something unique and innovative. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play some music. This is for the people of Egypt, trying to do their best to be self-determined and engage in their own, in the manufacture of their own destiny. This is a track that I did a long time ago. It's vaguely Egyptian. In fact, there is an Egyptian instrument I use in this track. I think it's the ney. Let's see, where is it? Down here. And here it is, right there. Quarantine. All right. This is Quarantine. I'll be back in 4 minutes and 43 seconds. And I'll scan the wire to find the latest on Egypt, and we'll go from there. You're listening to the Monday Mashup. I'm Robert Phoenix, and I'll see you in a bit.
هذا لم يحرر بعد ما زال تحت ما زال مكتوبة في قضيته لذلك سأجل الحكم فيه حتى يحرر لأن الخطأ في الدماء أمر كبير لذلك يجب التحري ترعيد التحقيق فيه مرة أخرى ومرة أخرى حتى يتبين الحق هذا ممكن أن
So the sounds you're hearing right now is from a live leak broadcast, which you can find. I'll try to put the, I can't put the link up in the chat room, but this is taking place, or took place in Syria. And I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before. This is the beheading of 3 people, including a Catholic priest, and it's all recorded live. It's right here on video. It's actually pretty shocking and pretty startling. So I'm going to stop the video right now because it's too intense. Let me read you the story. Jihadists in Syria kidnapped a Catholic priest in the Idlib area and beheaded him as scores of onlookers, including children, cheered and recorded the event on their cell phones. The video is right there. It's on if you look, it's on Live Leak. You can go to longwarjournal.org and find it. The Vatican reported last week that the priest was captured by fighters linked to the al-Nusra Front for the People in the Levant, al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria. This is al-Qaeda's affiliate. These are the people that are backing the insurgency in Syria. Al-Qaeda, this is supposedly the group of people that we're fighting against. And yet, there seems to be some very strange switching of sides taking place, kind of midstream in the battle against terrorism. The Vatican confirmed that Father Francois Mourad was killed on June 23rd after jihadists affiliated with al-Nusra Front overran his monastery in Gassinia, a town in the countryside in northern province of Idlib. According to local sources, the monastery where Father Mourad was staying was attacked by militants linked to the jihadi group Jabhat al-Nusra, the al-Nusra Front. Video of Father Mourad's execution has emerged on the Live Leak video sharing website. In the video, Father Mourad and 2 other men are seen kneeling on the ground with their heads bound behind their backs. A crowd of armed men as well as young boys watch as a bearded jihadist makes a speech. The crowd then begins to chant, Allahu Akbar, God is greatest. Another bearded jihadist wearing in black takes out a knife and begins to behead one of the men. People in the crowd press close and scramble to take video. The same jihadist proceeds to behead the other 2 men. The heads of the murdered men are then placed atop their corpses. The jihadists claim that the slain men were linked to Syria's military establishment, according to Stephen Miller, a research analyst at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Miller said that the jihadist who made the opening speech is speaking in broken Arabic. I would guess that the man handing out the sentence is a foreign jihadi, though I can't tell from where, Miller said. The man making the speech claimed at least one of the men had the phone numbers of the Syrian military officers in Aleppo stored on his cell phone, Miller told the Long War Journal. In addition, the foreign jihadist alleged that some of the men were stopped with weapons and ammunition issued by the Syrian military. He's a foreign jihadist. He's not even from Syria. The al-Nusra Front, the Islamic State in Iraq, and the Muhajirin Army are all known to have numerous foreigners in both leadership positions and in the rank and file. Idlib is considered to be a stronghold of the al-Nusra Front. Christians in Syria have increasingly been targeted by Islamists who believe Christians are colluding with government forces in the Syrian civil war. On June 28th, a suicide bomber detonated his vest outside a church in a Christian neighborhood in Damascus, killing 4 people. It is uncertain if the bomber was targeting the church or nearby pro-government militia. On April 22nd, 2 senior Christian leaders in the region Syriac Orthodox Archbishop John Ibrahim and Greek Orthodox Archbishop Paul Yegizi were kidnapped near the Turkish border, and their driver was killed. They were on their way to Aleppo to arrange the release of two kidnapped priests, Father Michael Kayal and Maher Mahfouz, who'd been abducted in February. It appears likely that the two senior clerics are being held by al-Qaeda's Syrian affiliate, the al-Nusra Front. According to an April 24th report in the Christian Science Monitor, Bishop Tony Yazigi, a relative of kidnapped Bishop Bulos Yazigi, said the kidnappers were believed to be Chechen fighters from the al-Nusra Front. So now we're bringing in Chechnya into Syria. This is really a convoluted situation. On May 8th, acting Syrian National Council President George Sabra told Lebanese officials and Syriac clerics that the archbishops were being held by a small group of rebels in the town of Bishkeken outside Aleppo and were in good health. According to the Daily Star, a Lebanese Syriac Orthodox bishop said at the time, "I don't know whether the Christians would leave the region because of this or stay and react to this kidnapping in a way that we do not want." In early June, Pope Francis commented on the case, asking for the release of captives and prayers for the two men and for all victims of the Syrian conflict. According to a recent report on the website Sat7, a Christian news outlet for the Middle East and North Africa, an officer in the Free Syrian Army, that the leader of al-Nusra Front, who resides in the al-Mashhad village known as Abu al-Banat, is the one behind the kidnapping of the Aleppo archbishops, noting that they were held hostage at the al-Mashhad village and one of them might have been murdered. This is a terrible situation that's evolving in Syria, because it's not just this manufactured and synthetic insurgents that's being brought in by NATO and outside forces. I mean, we're talking people from Chechnya, who knows where else, maybe Libya. Where are these people coming? These people are Hessians. That's what they are. They're modern Hessians, and they're taking Christians. They're taking them captive, and they're savagely beheading them. I mean, this to me, it's horrific. And where is the outrage in this country? Where is it? There's none. There's absolutely none. This is making no news, because these are the people, these are the animals that are being backed to overthrow the Syrian government. People are just woefully uninformed. And look, is al-Assad a great guy? I don't know. I don't live in Syria. But what I do know is that this is barbaric. This is absolutely barbaric. And if you're putting house money, our tax dollars are going towards this. This is an outrage. And not enough people are talking about it. But we live in a time now where Christians have a bullseye right on them. They are. Christians, I was thinking about this today. Look, I am not a Christian. I don't go to church. I was baptized. Do I believe in God? Yes. And I'm not an astrotheologist, and I don't think that Jesus was Osiris or the sun. I don't. I believe that Jesus walked this earth, okay? So we chill. I don't think it was his name, but I believe in the man. I believe in the historical figure. I believe in the archetype. I believe in the mythology. I believe in the cosmic being. And that belief is connected to all five of those statements, okay? But I don't go to church. But I respect people that do go to church. It's their faith. But I'll tell you this, being a Christian in the United States in the 21st century is an underdog position. It is an underdog position. Christianity has been painted to be this hateful, ignorant, spiteful application of faith. And in some ways, probably it is. If you go into some of the, dispensationalist sort of churches and get into that whole trip, it can be very divisional. But I'll say this, it doesn't deserve what's happening in Syria right now. It doesn't. Not in one iota. You cannot justify this. You cannot say they got what they deserved. I don't believe that. And for this country to back this insurgency is, it's insane is what it is. Absolutely insane. And it's not making enough news. Not enough people know about what took place. So that's why we're here, to inform you, to keep you abreast of the insanity and the horrors of the world. It's cooled down here a little bit. I think it's in the 90s today. Over the weekend, it was just absolutely torrid. We hit 105 on Saturday. It was unlike anything I've experienced. The temperatures in the Southwest, Arizona, Nevada, California, I think Death Valley was at like 125. Can you believe that? 125. 125. Have you ever been in a sauna when the heat is 125? It is almost unbearable. Like it is burning your skin at 125. Think about that. When you cook, you could actually cook a piece of meat in your oven at 125. It would take you, 3 or 4 hours to cook it, but over time it would get cooked. It would get fried. It would bake or whatever. It happens, right? It's a whole school called slow cooking. That's how hot it is in Death Valley. In Las Vegas, I think they were up around 115. 115, and they got some rain in New Mexico, but they haven't gotten any rain in Arizona, and they haven't gotten any rain in southern Nevada. So this is a very intense meteorological time that this country is going through. If you go to the East Coast, there's all kinds of rain, deluge of rain. So the country is split down the middle, right? You got on one side you've got this subtropical deluge, and on the other side you've got the fires of Hades scorching the planet. So, we hope that changes quickly for our friends in the Southwest. Maybe I can play some rain dance music or something like that by the end of the show. On Wednesday, I'll be back with Navigating the Astrological Matrix. And Friday, I'm going to have Shauna Home on the show. She is the author of Love and Spirit Medicine, and it's about one woman's journey through exploring entheogens and how it helped her get through the end of her marriage and also informed the rest of her life. I wouldn't say she's a female version of Terence McKenna, but it's a really interesting book and very worth reading, and I'm looking forward to having her on the show. That's going to be on Friday. And I think I'm going to have my buddy Ken also on the show, and we're going to be deconstructing Charles Ferrini. Ken is amazing. He's brilliant. I think Ken is one of the great thinkers of our time in terms of seeing things in a very mythopoetic and meta-critical kind of way. And I think Sarah Nash is going to be back on Friday as well, our friend the Cosmic Hooker. So Friday is going to be a kicking show. Don't miss Friday's show. All right, I'm not sure how much more I have to share today. I don't want to just talk for the sake of talking. So we checked in with Egypt. There's a lot happening there. Keep your eye on that. And stay abreast of what's happening in Syria. The one thing I will say about Syria is that these jihadists, these rebels, these freedom fighters, they're getting their ass kicked in Syria. And they're going to continue to get their ass kicked. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because they do not have the moral authority to be in that country doing what they're doing. And in my world, in my universe, there is a God, and God rewards the just. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. When I say the just, that means that people that are fighting for their homeland, people that are fighting for their sovereignty, and that's what's happening there. So keep your eye on Syria. And I predict, this is what I think. I predict that the tide is going to turn in Syria. See, they want to get Iran involved, right? That's the big plan. They're going for a 2-for-1 with Syria and Iran. They want to take both of them down. So they're baiting Iran to get involved with Syria. They're somehow trying to link Iran with Syria. They're already trying to link Hezbollah with Syria and fighting the jihadists and being on side of the Syrians. So there's tons of misinformation and fog and noise and chaos in that situation. But I'm going to make a prediction. My prediction is that these rebels, these jihadists, these revolutionaries are going to get their asses kicked time and time again. And at the end of the day, the Syrian people will stand, much to the chagrin of NATO and these international globalist forces that are trying to push it into the New World Order, because that's what this is all about. They want to move Syria into the New World Order. They do not want sovereign governments. They don't want governments that don't have any debt associated with them. And the Syrians are going to fight until they die. That's just the way it is. So that's my prediction, that this is going to result in a massive failure. It's going to be a big defeat. And what happens when they have a big defeat like this is they will then take the fight elsewhere. They'll create some other conflict somewhere else. And I do believe, by the way, that what happened in Turkey with the protests in Turkey were very important with derailing something that was going to take place in Syria. So we don't always know, how these things are going to get fleshed out. We in some ways we're quite limited in our perspective, but I do have a very strong sense here that this is going to turn out in favor of the Syrian people. All right, that's it. I'm going to sign off for today, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday when we navigate the astrological matrix. Go to my website, robertphoenix.com, and I have a new post there. I think you'll enjoy it. It's pretty funny, actually. At least I think it's funny. Other people think it's funny. And you can check that out, read it, and have a good time. All right, you know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to open what's possible. This has been the Monday Mashup. And keep your eyes on the Fertile Crescent, Egypt, where it all began and where it all seems to be beginning again. I'll see you on Wednesday.
We are in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.